Hello and
Welcome.
to this very special edition of the Rink Moose Hockey Podcast, a weekly episodic podcast where two good friends get together and discuss all things NHL, as well as their impact on the fantasy hockey universe. I'm one of your hosts, Nick Costu. Happy to introduce this inaugural first episode of Season 2 of the Rink Moose Podcast, joined with my good pal, Kyle Nice. Kyle, how are you doing on this fine, very fine Sunday evening?
Well, Nick, I never thought I'd say this, but it's good to be back in the closet here.
Wow.
No, I wouldn't say that. It's not great to be back in the closet. It's kind of dingy in here, not a lot of airflow, but it's good to be back on the horn. We're excited to get things going, and it's kind of felt like a fast off season for me. It kind of felt like we just did our last episode like a couple weeks ago, but here we are back at it again with a fresh new look at the NHL and a lot of exciting things happening. So yeah, I'm excited.
You wish you could have enjoyed the off season a little longer.
Yeah, it went by a little. It feels like I'm not ready to dive in. Fantasy wise, like watching the games. When am I gonna watch the games?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden,
yeah.
I have to carve out more time to really give this a lot of heart.
Well, I'm speaking of game. I'm actually surprised we're doing this right now because Colorado they're in action right now against Minnesota. Cale Makar in the lineup.
That's the other thing I got to say is in my wise years now, I've learned to really distrust preseason and really just not give as much of a hoot anymore. I don't know. It just seems like the translation is just farther off than I ever thought it would be. So I mean, I saw the other Colorado game. Saw a little bit of Cale Makar, a little Sam Girard action, but I'll tell you, Nathan MacKinnon looked like just totally not Nathan MacKinnon. So, yeah, everything's with a grain of salt at this point. It's mostly just about watching the young guys, really.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I just looked at the stats, and apparently he didn't even have a shot on goal the whole game.
Oh, the puck was slipping off his stick everywhere he was going. His skating was fine, but it was just sliding off everywhere.
Although I will say I did tune in for a bit of the Buffalo-Toronto game last night, and boy, that Jackie boy gets me excited.
Yeah, he's looking in mid-season form, huh?
Him and the defenseman, the Swedish defenseman.
Oh, who was that guy again? Rasmus Sandin, was it? Or...
Yeah, very funny.
Oh boy! Who
they
looked
good
there was Sam Reinhart with some pretty passes. My God,
the passing.
Yeah, he's just hitting his prime now too.
I did not know he had that element in his game.
Oh, what's easy to forget? It's easy to forget he was a number 2 overall pick, second overall,
nuts.
And he was in his draft year. He was being pegged as the next Patrice Bergeron, hockey sense through the roof.
Wow.
That was that guy. He was that guy.
Wow.
So you know what? You never know what if he hits a good stride this year, just entering his prime. You never know what he could do. He's at least on my fantasy radar for sure in the later rounds.
I just assumed he was Eichel's butt buddy on the tricycle there. That was about it. That's all Sam Reinhart was to me.
Well, then you go. You're an outsider. You're not a Kelly's Corner Buffalo fan.
No, of course not.
But
yeah.
Speaking of some young guys, Nick, I know you're getting more into junior hockey these days, especially with this 2020 coming up. Now, you went to go see the big old Kingston opening season game to watch a certain fellow. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was the opening night at the Leon Center here in Kingston. It was Kingston hosting the Oshawa Generals, who I didn't know much about. Don't really know too many guys on their team. But there just so happened there were a lot of seats left over last minute. It was a cheap seat, $20-$25 gets you right by the glass for these games. And of course, I wanted to go see Shane Wright, the prodigy they call him.
Right.
Granted exceptional player status just last year. I think, what is he, 5th or 6th to get the honor?
I think 6. I think.
Yeah. and I don't know anything about this guy. Like full disclosure, late last year, Kyle sent me a video of just an interview, shitty quality interview of just him talking into a microphone, answering questions, and it was like a 4 minute interview. I immediately was sold. This kid's special, like just the way he handles himself, mature beyond his years. Like something I like this kid, like right from the get go. So I was like, may as well see him play because I hadn't even seen any highlights of him. And so yeah, I went down to see him, and I mean, to me, it looks like there's going to be some growing pains. I mean, this kid he's got some work to do. I made a whole scouting report. I didn't even
notes.
Go. I like whenever a thought came to my head, like I immediately wrote them down. I mean, first off, he's big. He's very big.
Oh yeah.
I like for a 15-year-old, I thought he was going to get pushed over and like would look fragile out there. He looks big.
Oh, okay.
I almost have that same reaction when we saw McDavid for the first time. I'm like, huh, like he's like a tall, slender dude, but like he just like he looks like he belongs out there, which was good to see. I kid you not, Kyle. Very first shift of the game, he caught an edge, fell right towards me.
No.
Like literally, there was a puck retrieval. They dumped the puck into the zone. Shane Wright went to get it. I was behind the goalie, the net, and literally Shane went falling right into me. First shift of the game. No way.
Wow.
I kid you not. I'm not making this up. That was my first memory of Shane Wright.
Wow. You're lucky,
literally
man.
My notes right here. I fell first shift.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's probably nervous,
What's that?
Right? Probably nervous.
What? Nervous? Yeah,
nervous.
I think so. He didn't fall the rest of he fell twice on that opening shift, and the one time was right into the boards next to me. Yeah, it was funny. But anyways, he caught me as more of a pass first guy. Not there to snipe. He's not going to score goals like we've been seeing from that Quentin Byfield fellow so far. Very pass first. High hockey IQ, knows where to be both offensively, knows where guys are when he has the puck. Has a sneaky quick release. There was one play where the defenseman was right on him. It was a one-on-one situation, and he was able to just quickly fire off a shot. That was impressive. Very very good passing. Nothing to complain about there. Offensively, he just looks like a guy who can quarterback the power play. They had him on the left point on the power play along with the defenseman, so that seems to be where he's going to be slotted in. First power play, mind you, so he's getting a lot of minutes. The coach is trusting him.
Wow. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
so
like
far.
immediately throwing him into the fire. But character was on display, communicating with his teammates. Always before face-offs. Like for a 15-year-old to be doing that, I was impressed. Got robbed on a couple of chances. He didn't score. He had no stats the whole game, but he had a really good opportunity to score on one shift. But the goalie had a very nice glove save. But still growing pains. Like I said, I mean, he doesn't look like he has that speed that like McDavid has. He's not that player. Like he immediately is not that player. Like he's not McDavid where he can his speed will just blur up by guys. He's not that. He's more of a Crosby. At least that's my first, reaction. He got beat in his own zone, like defending like the centerman in front of the net. He wasn't watching him, got lost in his own zone and ended up being a goal against. So that was his one minus of the night. So clearly some learning there. But yeah, I mean, again, like I'll just like he didn't come off as just this flashy McDavid-like player or some guy who's going to snipe like Kucherov. He just seems very Crosby-like. He knows where to be. He's distributing the puck well. He's finding guys. He's good at generating zone, exits and entries. He's just a solid player. That was my reaction the first game.
Well, I'm actually very pleased to hear that because, I mean, as long as he didn't do anything egregiously wrong. Like three terrible turnovers. Because
absolutely did not happen.
Yeah, we got to remember, as long as he looked solid, and you said he was more of a pass first, but this is all what we expect from like a first game in the OHL for a very young kid, 15. My God, 15 years old. So I'm impressed that he didn't. I mean, obviously that blown coverage that can be expected. I'm impressed he's on the power play. Like, was that the top unit he was on?
Top unit. Every chance they had on a power play, he was right out there, and he would always play the point.
It's insane. Like, that's perfect deployment for that kind of.
I love the coach. Yeah, the coach did a good job of getting him in there. Lots of minutes.
So, and in the skating, I'm not too worried. Like, he's still got like development to do skating wise too. I'm sure that's gonna come soon because he was a really good skater back in like when they were scouting him out of AAA. So I'm sure that'll come too. It's just I'm sure he just didn't want to try too much in the first game. Like make any big. He'll get more confident out there. I'm impressed with what you've said so far.
Yeah, like things I like, things I didn't like, but I want to see a lot more, and I think like I will. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. He's going to play minimum 3 years in this league, right?
That's correct.
15, 16, 17, and then 18 you're in the show.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean it's going to be at least 3. He's going to get a World Junior or 2 under his belt. So this is just the start of this resume of his that I'm going to get to see, but I don't know. It was like a fun little first impression. I'm not ready to buy the jersey yet. I told you that. I came very close to doing so, but just can't do it yet. Can't do it.
Yeah, he's got to win you over.
He's got it. There's got to be like a factor, like a play in a game, like the jersey moment, right? We've talked about this before.
Yes.
What's the moment that you pull the trigger? And for me, it's not enough of a jersey moment. Just hearing a guy speak, like there needs to be more than character to get a jersey. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So. We'll see what happens. Next Friday, they'll be in action again, their second game of the season. I'll see if I find the time to go, but it'll be Marco Rossi and the Ottawa 67s in town.
Oh, that'll be a good scout.
What do you know about him?
Not much, just that he's some sort of
top 10
Swiss,
pick?
I think. I don't think
that's what they're saying.
I don't think he'll be a top 10 at the end of the day.
Okay.
He's a really, really old player in this draft. Like I know Lafreniere's old. He's older. He's even older than Lafreniere. And I just think he'll be just fringe top 10, just outside. Okay. But I don't know too much about him, to be honest.
Yeah, like I'm basically planning on going to, of course, we're going to the Sudbury game in November. Yes. I'm planning on seeing Saginaw when they come to town. That'll be in January to see Perfetti play. Jamie Drysdale, he'll be in town January too with Erie. Those are kind of the marquee guys you got to see, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So... yeah, that'll be exciting. I'll keep you updated as I hopefully go to more of these games.
For sure.
But yeah, business first order of business here. I mean, the most important order of business is our season preview. We want to provide you guys with our predictions of where these teams are going to land. We don't want to go through what we did last year. We literally dipped our toes into literally every single detail of these teams, fantasy rankings, centers, goalies, left wing, right wing. What we decided to do was we're going to give you guys what you want immediately. And that's our predictions. We're going to go Atlantic and Metro today, the whole picture of the Eastern Conference, along with some fantasy tidbits along the way. Am I right?
Yes. Everywhere we can sprinkle them in, we'll try to get a little bit of knowledge in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess without further ado, we will start. Where do you want to start here? Atlantic, Metro?
Yeah, you know what? Why don't we go off? Let's do Atlantic first. We'll just go from your list. You say the team first, and I'll give you. I'll say it after. Just because we'll go by that structure, and then I'll just say my analysis after.
So I give my take of the worst team.
Yeah,
and then you go right afterwards?
You got it, yeah.
Okay. Well, this should come as no surprise, but my 8th seeded team in the Atlantic Division, the bottom feeders, so to speak, and who will be first in the running for the young Alexis Lafreniere.
Don't you dare.
Lafreniere.
No.
How do you pronounce it?
Lafreniere.
Is that how he says it?
Yes.
Lafreniere?
Well, that's how the French say it.
Lafreniere.
Yes, Yer.
And how do you say the is it Alexi?
Alexi.
Alexis Lafreniere.
Yes.
Okay, got it right. So, first in the running for Alexis Lafreniere, the Ottawa Senators.
No,
Quite fitting if you ask me. It would be nice for him to go to a Canadian market.
I'd like that.
Um, he's close to the Q, which I mean Ottawa's close to the Q where he's playing right now with the Rimouski Oceanic. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean Ottawa, I got them eighth, and to me everything just comes down to the offseason moves they made, particularly with the coach. To me, it looks like they wanted to hire a guy who is going to be more of a development coach instead of like a tactician who's going to get them into the playoffs. That's why they went out and hired this assistant of the Leafs. That to me just says we're ready to go tank, finish in last place. They bring in former Leafs, notable guys being Connor Brown, Ron Hainsey, Zaitsev, of course. So, I mean, to me, it looks like they were just looking at guys to fill their roster, to find a coach who can develop these young guys like Colin White and Kachuk and Shabbat, who, by the way, signed the extension, 8 years, $8 million, which everyone seems to love. So yeah, nothing else needs to be said. That's my take, and that's why I see them finishing last.
You had a bad season last year when, even though everyone's probably predicting you to come last this season, there's still an element of positivity in the city. Like, don't you feel like in Ottawa there's this kind of vibe where, at least I know we're still on the bottom, but at least we're on the rise. Like, it just seems like now things are in place. The horrible chaos is now behind them. They've got Shabbat signed, great. They've got young kids coming in. They finally have a first rounder in this draft, so it's something to look forward to. Which is I'll be honest. Whenever I'm going to TSN radio these days, Nick, I'm always clicking Ottawa. I'm like, what's going on there? I kind of want to take the pulse of that city, and I want them to do well. So, but let's be honest. The offense is piss poor. It's got the worst depth in the NHL offensively. The coach looks like he's gonna be bringing some high energy, some speed, like you said, the development. That's good to see. And then that Brandstrom kid, if you remember him from the Mark Stone trade,
right?
I don't know if this kid's gonna make the team this year. Like he's been okay in the preseason and the training camp, but not amazing. So it's like, why don't you just season him one more year? Let the defense look like crap, like it does on paper. And Craig Anderson, who the hell knows? Flip a coin, right? Who knows what kind of Craig Anderson we're gonna get? The guy is 40 now, so. Colin White's your number one center. You know what? Just wrap it up. Like get your experience in. Try to keep things positive and move forward with this team.
Yeah. Again, I can't disagree. We both have them last. I have to ask, what did you think of the Colin White contract?
What was the number again? I remember
6 years, 4.75 a year.
Yeah, great contract. Great contract.
Why is that? But see, wouldn't you just say, who is this guy? What's he done to earn that contract?
Well, that's the thing. These days, these contracts are all kind of like a little bit of predicting into the future. I think it's so safe to say that this guy is going to earn that contract, and pretty knowingly that he's going to be their number one center this year. I think that's a pretty good deal on everyone's part there. Like maybe he hasn't earned 4.7, but we all kind of know around the table here that he's going to earn that in the next couple
in 3 years, that'll look good.
Oh, for sure.
Whereas
I think
now
in
you look
2
at it
years
and you're like, meh.
I mean, if he does a solid job this year, I think it'll look good.
Yeah, for sure.
If he holds his own.
4.75 is like nothing money for like a top six center.
Oh God,
nowadays, right?
No, you're laughing. You're laughing. I think the Shabbat contract was great too.
Yeah,
it'll be great down the road.
The management, they're doing their job. You're saying?
Yes, Pierre Dorian is finally
good,
making some good moves.
Alrighty. So yeah, with that said, they are the 8th seed. We both agree on that. So nothing more to touch on there. The 7th seed, finishing right ahead of them, the Detroit Red Wings. Do we agree? Disagree?
We agree.
We agree. Okay, so Detroit. I got them ahead of Ottawa just because I think their better players are a little more, developed. They've had a little more time to get accustomed to the big leagues. Of course, I'm alluding to Dylan Larkin, who should continue to post point per game numbers. I expect a big year out of him. A huge fantasy sleeper. If you look at his ADP right now, well below where it should be. This should be a guy on everybody's radar. And that goes to the guys who play with him as well. We're talking Anthony Mantha, who could easily put up 65 to 70 points, playing alongside him, as well as the young Tyler Bertuzzi, who looks to be on that line as well. I've heard ramblings of him potentially hitting 60 points if he can stay up there. So that in itself is a very strong first line, something Ottawa doesn't quite have yet. They have Kachuk, but nothing beyond that. And then, of course, an Andreas Athanasiou, who's kind of on an island on his own. He doesn't play with Larkin, doesn't play with any other talented guys. But just looking at him, the talent's there, the speed is there, the goal scoring ability is there. This is a guy who could put up 30 goals in his sleep. So I'm very optimistic about those guys. Those guys will keep them in games. They'll keep them, scoring. And then, of course, they just have a better defense than this Ottawa team that basically inherited all the shitty toys from Toronto. And we're talking, guys who they have experience. Mike Green, Patrick Nemeth, who they got from Colorado, Danny DeKeyser. They just seem a little further into their development and their rebuild than Ottawa right now. Mm-hmm. And while I don't see them, making a playoff push or anything, they seem like a little stronger of a team. So if Ottawa finishes with, say, 65 points, I could see Detroit getting something like 75. So there it is.
Yeah, I think I made a note here that these two teams, Ottawa, Detroit, for me, there's a big gap between how bad they are and how bad the rest of the entire East is. Like the next best team, I think, is a lot better than both these teams.
True.
But I agree with what you said. That top line is actually a really solid top line. You mentioned Larkin going late in the draft. I mean, I think that's a lot to do with he's a center, pure center only in that Yahoo format. I think Mantha is going to be a really great sleeper pick. I mean, you look back at what he did at the World Championships. He was like one of the best Canadian players on that team. Like that guy was scoring left, right, and center. He's always had the tools. The guy put up 40 goal seasons in his sleep in the queue when he was in his draft year and draft +1. So this guy's talented. He's big, and I think he's just starting to put it together. This Tyler Bertuzzi kid kind of reminds me of like a Josh Anderson type. So, and I like that kind of guy for kind of playoff hockey, and I think he's one of those guys who maybe won't put up huge numbers in the regular season, but he'll be in every situation to do so, given the depth of the team. So he might do something out there. Yeah, I mean their defense isn't great for me. I wouldn't touch any of their defensemen. Zadina, he's probably going to be seeing more time with the big club this year, but don't expect too much out of him. Don't expect a Calder case or anything like that. And Joe Veleno has looked very, very solid in his preseason and training camp. Very, very solid.
Generational player, right?
No, but he did lead the entire rookie showcase in scoring goals.
Wow.
And he's shown a lot. They've been impressed with him left, right, and center. That being said, I think it's wise to give him another year. Outside of the big club, again, what are you really shooting for? They're going to be losing a lot, and let him go play at the World Juniors with Alexis Lafreniere on the top line, right? So keep him out one more year, but he's looking like a very, very solid number 2 center down the line, maybe even next year. So I like where they're going. I like that Dennis Chalowski. I like that Taro Hirose. Don't know much about him, just like his name. And yeah, they're going to get a good top 5 pick this year. So good things out of Detroit coming up, but not this season.
And not to mention they got the right GM in the GM chair now, right?
Oh,
of course,
yes.
the Yzerman who built up Tampa. So there should be good reason to trust them and their vision. And another top 5 pick should go a long way in continuing the rebuild.
Oh, quick note. You remember that guy they drafted this year who everyone was like, what the hell is he? Oh, Moritz Seider?
The defenseman, yeah.
He's looked amazing. He's looked awesome in camp so far. Everyone's been, all the tweets I see are like, wow, Seider really killing it. So, yeah, again, he won't make the team, but it's maybe showing that maybe Stevie knew something that everyone else didn't. So, not a bad pick there, maybe.
He played with, in the German league, right?
Yeah.
So he's playing with grown men already. So I could see why he'd be, kind of ready already for prime time,
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, one more note. Dylan Larkin, ADP. You want to take a stab at this guy?
I think it's around 72.
125.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I
What?
told you. I told you he's getting picked in that Quinn Hughes, Zach
Oh my
Werenski, Shea
God.
Theodore, Riestalainen, Evander Kane area.
Well, what I'm noticing when I'm doing my things, my mocks is like,
Hmm.
you get to a point around like 70, 80 draft, and you're just like, there's some really amazing centers still on
Hmm.
the board here, like the Ryan O'Reillys, the Dylan Larkins. You know
Hmm.
that spot, and you're
Yep.
like, I can't pick them. And you got Sean Couturier sitting there. I can't pick them because I've already got 3 or 4
Right.
centers. So you end up getting screwed. So maybe a tip there is, if you can, if it makes sense, try to get good wingers early, because you know the centers are still going to be very high quality later on down the road.
Yeah. Good point.
If I don't
Yeah. I mean,
sacrifice too much to do it, but you know.
yeah. I mean, if his ADP is 125, I'd happily take that player, like you said,
Yeah.
in the 80 range, 80,
Mm-hmm.
75, 70. Yeah.
And I think Taves is even going later than that. He's going like he's going late, late, late. My God.
I think it's because all these players out of nowhere put up 60 points. Like 60 points became nothing last year,
Yeah.
and they all have these high stats because scoring's gone up. And now, of course, in these drafts, there's so many of them. You see them like around round one, like they read the 100th pick, and you're like, holy shit, they're still there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, moving on. This is, of course, where I think things get interesting because this, of course, is where variety might come in. I think you said it right
Yeah.
with those two other teams occupying the two bottom spots.
Mm-hmm.
With my third last team, sixth overall in the Atlantic Division, pains me to say it,
Oh, I know it.
Buffalo, I'm
Yeah.
coming for you.
Wow.
Buffalo
Wow. Wow.
Sabres unfortunately will miss the playoffs again, and I don't
Wow.
want to go. I don't want to be sour on them because I really like what they're doing, and I like what they did in the offseason. I like acquiring guys like Colin Miller. You know,
Mm-hmm.
really bolstering the blue line. But
Yeah.
to me, it's more the other teams around them being that much stronger. Teams like
Yeah.
Florida making improvements. Teams like Montreal looking like they're ready for a run. To me, that's why they're there, and they seem a year or two away from prime time in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I think the biggest thing is goaltending. I
Yes.
think they did a lot, to improve up front. I like the acquisitions they made. Just looking at their top six right here, I mean, you're going to have Reinhardt and Eichel maybe separated to kind of provide more depth there in the top six.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Vesey they acquired. He's going to help them. Victor Olofsson, who was a leading scorer in the AHL for them last year, looks like he's ready for prime time. On defense, they're stronger with Colin Miller, as I said. They look good. On paper, they look good, but
Yeah.
I still think the goaltending on this team's atrocious. And if you saw the game last night, you would have seen Carter Hutton had a very rough game. And I don't think this is a guy who can play over 50 games. I think this is going to be another, 45 and 40 split between him and this Linus Olmark. And that the goaltending's going to hold them back. They need an established goalie, and that's something the organization lacks. Not to mention guys like Dahlin, they still have growing to do. They're not quite ready to be studs. So I like this team from a fantasy perspective. I think there's a lot to a lot of value on the power play. I think we saw hints of that last night, them just dishing the puck around like nothing. This should be a solid power play. I just again, I don't think they're ready for playoffs just because the teams around them are just that much better.
Mm. And yeah, guys, me and Nick didn't compare lists before we got into this, but I have Buffalo in that same exact spot. And yeah, similar to you. I mean, it hurt me to put them there because I wanted to have them higher. I looked at the roster, I was super pleased, but then I looked at everyone else's roster, and I had to bring them back down. Like you said, the goaltending is where it's going to hit you the hardest. You just don't know what you're getting back there. I mean, the defense is better. Montour came in recently, a little bit earlier last year. Colin Miller's a great depth add there. Some guys are older and wiser and better. Eichel's ready to join that kind of elite company. I think Dahlin will be a little bit of a step better than last year. Reinhardt's hitting his prime. There's good things happening there, and of course they're gonna jump up the standings compared to last year. But like I said, there's many years where this would be a playoff team, but it's just like the East has just started flexing so hard over the offseason. Like the East has bolstered in so many ways. Like I don't know what's happening in the West, but the East is just like it's gonna be a manhunt out there. It's gonna be nasty. So with that Achilles heel, I don't think they can survive the onslaught.
Yeah, shame because we
Yep.
both really like the fan base and the market, as our listeners know. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's Buffalo again. They will be occupying a bottom 10 spot in the league and should be right in the lottery.
Which they don't
Um,
deserve, but good for
yeah,
them.
yeah. Moving on. This, of course, like I said, things might get different here.
Mm.
Fifth seed. So again, this is a solid team I'm talking about. This is a good hockey team that is in the bottom half of the Atlantic standings, occupying fifth spot. I have the Montreal Canadiens.
Wow.
They again, I was caught off guard by their success last year. They had a lot of good stories. This was one of those, good story teams where like a lot of things that weren't expected to come into fruition and pay off did. Guys like Thomas Tatar had career years. Max Domi came out of nowhere and elevated his game to superstar level. Kids like Kotkaniemi showed they can, make reps in the NHL, and he showed maturity at a ripe age of 18. Gallagher was Gallagher. Drouin had a very good 60 first games of the season. Things look good, and on defense, guys like Mete were developing, and Petrie looked his part when Weber was out and filled his hole on the power play, and Weber was his usual self when healthy. So this team had good stories going for them. But to me, I think it's going to come down to two things. Can those guys who put up the career years, the Tatars, the Denos, the Domis, can they repeat? That's the first point. Can these guys do what they did again last year? And then the second point is, if they can't, can the young kids like Kotkaniemi having better years offset that? Because I think it's asking a lot for those guys to put up the same results, for Tatar to put up another 58-point season. But with guys like Kotkaniemi moving into like the 50-point range, maybe that offsets that. So to me, it's, can those veterans repeat their performance, and can the young kids fill in whatever those vets can't do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said it before, we didn't compare lists, but this is where I have Montreal as well. Mm-hmm. No shocker here. I mean, it's because, and I'd love to put them higher, it's because the other teams are so strong. They came inches away last year. Obviously, you mentioned there was a lot of career years in there, but there was also things going against them a little bit as well. You had the Weber drama. You had him kind of, coming off that injury. He didn't have a proper summer to train and get ready. From all accounts that I've heard, you have Shea Weber much more healthy this year to start the year, which is going to be excellent, stabilizing the blue line there. The other thing you have there is probably a more consistency out of Carey Price. I mean, if you remember from last year, early on, there was still those questions. He came off that really terrible season. Things were kind of in flux. He started off really poorly, and then all of a sudden, he took that week where they weren't even playing him. And then he came back really strong, and he finished the year looking like the old Carey Price, and they made a really strong run. So I think with a healthy Weber at the beginning of the year and a consistent Carey Price, you can offset some of those career highs. And I say, hey, why not? Why can't Max Domi get 70+ points again? He's certainly talented enough. Now we still need to talk about the youth movement over in Montreal with guys like Nick Suzuki, Ryan Poehling, Cale Fleury, Josh Brook. These guys are all guys who have very much impressed at training camp and preseason. Unfortunate with the injury to Ryan Poehling there. That's always unfortunate. He had the check to the side of the head there, which resulted in the concussion. And then obviously Nick Suzuki has looked amazing. So what you have there, and I'm not sure these guys are going to find themselves into top 6 roles, but what you have there is they're plug-ins. They're going to go to the AHL or maybe have lower level roles. But if any injuries do come up, then you can plug in some serious talent into into that top 6 or top 4 defense. So that's a positive. The last thing there is that Drouin article from The Athletic. I'm not sure if you read this, Nick, but they talked about Drouin's off season and how he approached how he would get better for this season. Obviously, things didn't go too well last year. Now they were asking him, "Hey, Joe, did you get into any of that mental, psychological training like Nathan McKinnon?" He goes, "No, I don't need that. I didn't do any of that. I just looked into the video room stuff." So he got Dominic Ducharme and a little bit of Claude Julien, and he just did hours and hours of video watching a day. So that was Drouin's offseason. Honestly, I'm not pleased. I'm not pleased that he declined the psychological stuff, because honestly, it just seems like that's probably what he needs help in the most, is his mindset and his mental toughness and all that kind of thing. So I'm not. I was so fired up about Drouin's season. I was like, I know he's gonna have a good one, but I don't think so. I think he's gonna be. Things are gonna get ugly for Joe. That's what I think. I think there's even a potential.
Crazy. How far we've come.
I know. I think
his jersey's literally sitting in your closet as we speak.
It's right beside me. It's right beside me.
So you should be optimistic.
But Nick, how could I be? He hasn't look at his preseason. He's been bad.
He had a good first 60 games.
Doesn't matter.
First 60 games, he was 90th ranked player in Yahoo.
I know, but
power play points, shots.
This guy is on the chopping block in Montreal. He is the public enemy number 1 on this team.
He still gets the power play time. He's still on the top unit.
We'll see how long that lasts.
I'll happily draft Jonathan Drouin on my hockey team.
You take him.
I think he still has the potential. I still see it. I still do. And,
I don't know.
And I think when he clicks, I want to own him. I still think he's the most talented passer on this team. I don't think you can neglect that.
He is.
That's why he's on the top PP with Shea Weber on the point. Will that continue? Will he get under the skin of Claude Julien? I don't know.
But yeah, no. I when you were out, I just talked quickly about the youth movement there. Nick Suzuki, Paling, Fleury, Josh Brook. Not necessarily getting big roles, but it just means if you ever have a guy who's struggling like Drouin or a guy who's injured, you can plug in some serious talent into your either top 6 or top 4 and really rely on those guys to be solid contributors. They've all 4 of those guys have shown that they're pretty much ready for big time play. Although I do think most of them are going back to the AHL for some seasoning.
Yeah, I mean, that's all long-term stuff. Long-term, they look to be in the right place, and that's what's important, that this GM, finally, this Bergevin, is no longer the laughingstock. He has gained our respect. We're going to have to get him out of our song.
Yeah.
And
true.
He's proven himself. And one more thing. This is why I'm a little more bullish on this team than maybe some other people are, is this power play was atrocious last year. I mean, Kyle would know that. He was pulling his hair out because this team couldn't score on the power play. And I just have a hard time seeing it be the same or any worse just because it was so historically bad. I think if they can just maintain their elite 5-on-5 play and just improve that power play just a tad, just a little, which I'm sure they will after, I'm sure, Claude Julien's been being a tactician all summer trying to plan how he's going to do it. I think there's potential there. So, I think it's got to be better, right, Kyle?
Oh, it's got to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
They must have went to the drawing board hard over the summer and they come up with some sort of plan. At least I hope so. So that'll be better. I mean, they're going to be sniffing around, right? They're going to be so darn close. It could go either way with their playoff chances.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on. The number 4 seed in the Atlantic Division.
Oh my God.
The Florida Panthers.
Whoa.
They disappointed me last year. I had them making the playoffs. They obviously did not. I don't see that being the case this year. And that simply is from having arguably the best offseason of any team in the NHL. I mean, what more needs to be said? You need to bolster your defense because it's a little too, haphazard. And guys like Ekblad and Yandel are getting a little too much sun there in the Sunshine State. So you throw in Strawman, a more stabilizing presence, along with Coach Q, who will bring some structure. He will insulate his defensemen. He will implement some kind of system that will make this team a little more stable on the back end. Up front, you add a guy like a No Machari from Boston, who's going to really do a lot for your fourth line. Brett Connolly is another addition they made from Washington. He was another good bottom six forward for them. I think he put up 50-plus points in that position. So you add those two guys, that rounds out the forwards a little more because we already know the top six is among the most talented in the league, led by, of course, Sasha Barkov, Vincent Trocheck, who, mind you, he should have a healthy season this year after last year's really, really treacherous, year that was unfortunately, impaired by a long-term injury. So he should be back in the running. Barkov should be Barkov. Huberdeau quietly put up 90 points last year. Who saw that coming? Am I right? I mean, yeah. I got up this morning. I saw he had 90 points last year. I was like, wow, that's the quietest 90 points in the league.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
He's one of the best left wingers in the league.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no,
I didn't know that. And now I got to wake up and I got to follow this guy now. He's got my attention.
Yeah.
90 points. Huberdeau.
You don't just do 90. That's crazy.
That's nuts. It shouldn't happen. But no. I guess he's a good player. Dadonov, Hoffman. I mean, it's a talented unit. They got the depth. And most importantly, they have the goalie. They got Sergei. They paid him big bucks. But he's going to have to fill the void until Spencer Knight gets up there. And I think he's the guy for the next 5 years. He's put up consistently solid numbers in Columbus. He's won himself a Vezina trophy. The resume's there. He will cover the blemishes that James Reimer and an aging Roberto Luongo couldn't do. So all those things considered, this team I'm bullish on. I really like Florida, and that's why they're my fourth seed.
Yeah, they're mine as well. I don't know. These lists might be the exact same.
No, well, here's the thing, Kyle. I saw this going this way. The Atlantic, to me, is a little more clear than the Metro. I think things are going to get hectic in the Metro.
The Metro's wild. Absolute wild.
Yes.
But no, not much to add on Florida, to be honest. I think this team's crazy good. I think you covered most of the points there. I think they could be good enough if they hit all the right pressure points to be almost cup contending material. Now, there's one guy you didn't mention who needs to be mentioned. He's a fan favorite. He's your personal favorite.
Owen Tippett.
Yes, you got it.
Yes. I saw him live last year in Kingston, and now he's on Florida.
Yeah, there you go. I'm surprised you left him out, but I had him right here in bold. Owen Tippett will make this team. He's going to be a sneaky, occasional, just gift a goal to the team. He's got such a good shot. You're not going to notice him for most of the game, and then boom, it's a snipe, top right. That's the kind of guy he's going to be this coming year, I think. Probably third line role, but power play time too, I think. Maybe second unit. So keep an eye on that. They got a secret weapon hanging back there, and I think they're going to be a very fun team to watch. Although none of their own fans will watch them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so funny. How literally February of last year, I'm watching him play in this little arena in Kingston, Ontario, eating bacon on a stick, like a schmuck's watching him. And now he's in the NHL and he's in Florida.
Yeah.
I just think that's nuts. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to see what role they give him. Bottom six, top six, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, just give him some second power play time, and I think he'll be cozy, happy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on. We move to the top three.
Here. Things could get weird here.
Yeah, the big boys.
Yeah.
Third seed, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Ooh, I wish.
My friends might give me some shit because, they might be more bullish on them than I am, but I still see the holes on this team. And to me, it just comes down to team defense. I know you got Tyson Barrie and everyone's tooting his horn, but he isn't that shutdown D that I necessarily want. They're
No.
building this team in a different way than I build it, and that's what Kyle Dubas is doing: speed and skill. And he wants Barry and Riley and Dermott being his faces on defense. And so be it. That's he's going to live or die by that, philosophy, and we're going to see what happens. So to me, the defense is still a work in progress. I want to see how they fill out the 5-6 role. Is it Rasmus Sandin? Is it Timothy Liljegren? Is it those schmucks, the Halls and the Marinsons who will have a second shot from last year? I don't know. So the D is the big question. That's why I don't have them first or second, but every other part of their team tells me they should be first or second. You are coming back with your Tavares and Marner on your first line. You're going to have Matthews and Nylander on your second line. Kerfoot, who we've talked about, I'm bullish on. I think he'll be great as the third line center.
No.
Whomever is the fourth line center, whether it be Spezza or Freddie the Goat, we still don't know what's going on. I know there's a bit of a rift between Mikey Babcock and Spezza at the moment. So we don't that's kind of a question mark, but the rest of their guys, I mean, you still got Kapanen and Janssen. Nick Patan has proved he can be a steady, player. Trevor Moore looked amazing last night in their preseason game. I'm excited to see more out of him. The forwards you're bullish on. You can't not like their forwards. And of course, in goal, you're going to have Freddie Anderson, who is going to give you the 60 starts you need. I know they're saying they're going to give him the lighter workload, but I don't buy it. I think he's going to have to play often if they want to make the playoffs, just because of how, competitive the division is. And you're going to see him play 60 to 65 games, and some kind of backup, whether it be Hutchison or Neuwirth, will fill the rest. So, yes, rest assured the Leafs are making the playoffs. I just don't necessarily have them at the top of the Atlantic Division.
I hate this team. And I didn't have them.
Yeah, we know that.
I didn't have them third there. So I don't know. Like you said, Dubas is building this in a certain way. I don't like it. I don't like the character of this team. I think it's one of the lowest character teams in the entire league in the last 10 years.
Agree.
Not a single... all you have is prima donna superstar players who just want the lifestyle, it seems. I'm not buying any of this stuff. Not one of them took a cent discount. Maybe Tavares did because he was a UFA. I'm happy to say Marner has had a pretty terrible preseason. He's had some just brutal errors from the games I've seen. I didn't watch the game last night, but yeah, he's been bad, and you know what? The fan base, look how quickly they turned on him, eh? When there were people yelling at him at the park, there were 12-year-olds yelling at him to sign his contract. It's just there's so much disgusting energy with this team. And my one question for you is this, fantasy-wise. A lot of people are going to have this kind of question come up. Who do you take between Matthews and Tavares? Matthews is obviously the younger, the more talented guy, but the injuries are a big concern. He's never had a really full, healthy season, and we all know he can be a 40 to 50 goal scorer pretty consistently, but what if he's missing some serious time? He's got the bad shoulder. He's a little bit of a douche. What do we do with this? And we know Tavares is going to play 82 games next to Mitch Marner, so he's more of a sure thing in a way.
Yeah, I mean, the more sure thing. He's going to stay healthy. He's going to give you the full 82 games. But I like the guys with the higher ceiling, and that's why I like Auston Matthews. To me, if I'm picking a guy, I'm picking Auston Matthews in my fantasy league ahead of him because he's going to give me he's going to give me that elite shot rate. He's going to score over 40 goals, which I know Tavares can do. But I like a higher ceiling, and a higher ceiling tells me Matthews could score 50 goals if he's healthy, and he will have that better spot on the power play, either on the point or on the circle. Not like Tavares will just be in front of the net the whole time. I'm more inclined to pick a guy like Matthews, even though Tavares, he's no slouch. He will play with Marner. Marner will get him the puck, and he's going to score his goals. I don't think you can go wrong with either guy, but I like the guy with the higher ceiling, even though Tavares is probably the safer bet.
Another thing you've probably seen in mock drafts is guys, studs like Morgan Riley, are going a lot lower than probably what he should. Now that's probably to do with, there's a little bit of confusion. You had Tyson Barrie, who's like a 60-point defenseman on a good year. These are both really offensively talented guys. Is it just going to be a simple matter of Riley's going to be the top power play guy? Done, enough said. Barry's on the 2 power play, or are they going to swap and see time on both? Is Babcock going to experiment with this Tyson Barrie on the top power play unit, or what's going to happen here?
Well, the dialogue looks like Barry's conceded the top role to Riley, right? He's basically said this is his team. He's been here longer. He's going to have that first power play duty. I think we see that from the start, but I don't think that's sustainable. I think this thing is going to be a mishmash the whole year. I think you're going to have Barry sometimes out there to start. I think Riley will be there sometimes to start. Sometimes you maybe see both of them. I doubt that. I don't know if they'll both be. I don't know if at the same time, because there's so many forwards that want those minutes. I don't think you can do that. But maybe his rationale is I want to spread out the peanut butter a little bit. I want to have some elite guys on the second unit, some forwards on the second unit. So I will put Riley and Barry on my first PP. But I don't know. To me, one guy being on the first PP, one guy on the second PP, take turns, have one guy get more minutes one game, another guy get more minutes the other game, kind of like a Carlson and Burns thing. That's how I see things going. But I think it would be a mistake to just say Morgan Riley's going to get all the first PP minutes all year. I think that would be a mistake.
I'm that being said, I'm much more confident in drafting Riley than I am Barry. It's hard to say where he's going to fall in line with the coach, because this Babcock guy, he picks his favorites, and if he doesn't like the way you play, you can really get buried. So I'm hesitant with Barry. I'm more confident in how Morgan Riley will be deployed. So Barry is one of those guys I'm going to stay away from, but I still am pretty confident he's going to get over 40. I'm going to say 40. He's going to get over 40 points, but I'm not confident in how he gets those.
Fair enough. I mean, Barry is a talent in himself, and he should get points nonetheless. But I think Riley, rightfully so, should get the higher fantasy value here, just given his pedigree, his relationship with the players, the reputation he's already built on the team. And that's that. But I mean, other than that fantasy debate, do you have them third as well?
No, I have them second.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't like that. But
yeah,
my third team is actually Boston. Okay. Boston Bruins. I'll just quickly go over them. I was looking at the roster. They're excellent up and down. Really nice depth there. The main thing I wonder with this team in terms of negatives is when the age will finally catch up to their leaders there, and in Bergeron and Chara, who Chara's like 42 now, and Bergeron's really, 34, 35. They're really getting up there. They're their lower forwards don't excite me too much, but you've got guys like Grizzle Chick, who's still on the bottom pairing there. He can easily come up to a top 4 role. No problems there. The goaltending, we've seen some inconsistency from Rask, but we've seen that Halak can be a good backstop if Rask falters for a bit. So, this team's kind of boring. They're going to be sort of similar to last year. They're just going to come in, do the job well, and clock out. We'll see in the playoffs. So, Boston, there's not a whole lot to say. Not a whole lot has changed. So that's the Boston Bruins there. I just have them third because, take your pick between them and Toronto. It's going to be close. I flipped a coin, really.
Yeah, that's fair. And without further ado, my 2, Boston Bruins. No surprise there. Again, I like them more than the Leafs just because they seem more stable on the back end, something I value more. Tuukka Rask and Jaro Halak were a very great tandem last year. You're not just shouldering Freddie with all the games. There you actually have 2 guys who can play goal and who will happily split the starts. With that said, do not draft Tuukka Rask, especially as high as he's going right now, because he's going to lose starts. And to me, I don't think it's worth drafting him in the top 40, which is where he's going right now. If he's only going to receive, 50 to 55 starts max, I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice doing that. So definitely don't touch Rask in fantasy. But the rest of the team should be solid. You're still going to have that elite top line of Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak. Should easily, Marchand 100 points, Pasternak 100 points, Bergeron, if he can stay healthy, we'll see. I'm bullish on this team, always have been. And like every year, it's going to come down to the playoffs. Will they, between them and the Leafs, they may face each other in the first round. We sure have that happening again. And that's going to be where this debate ends. But until then, both teams should be good in the regular season. And I could see them, both finishing 2 and 3 in the division.
Yep. So number 1, by process of elimination, we both have the Tampa Bay Lightning. So we were only off on one of those picks there, which is, I guess it's kind of interesting. It just goes to show that the Atlantic is more set in stone, more squared off, a little bit more consistent than the Metro, which is wild town. So I went through the Tampa Bay Lightning roster here, and it's always a fun exercise. Just see who they got new. It's Patrick Maroon has arrived. You've got Kevin Shattenkirk. That's kind of fun. You look up and down the road. It's fun. It's an unbelievable roster. There's no weaknesses. Their egos are very much damaged this year, Nick. I think in that case, I don't think they're going to put up the most as dominant per se as a season as last year, but I still think they'll be right around the top of the NHL. I look at their third line with Cirelli and Joseph, guys like that. I think it could be one of the most fun, speedy, skilled third lines in the NHL. Basically a power line, an energy line. Get these guys going, get them skating, and it'll really fire up the team. They're good. Vasilevsky's a year older. He's only 24, 25 still. Sergachev is going to have to grow into himself a little bit. Hopefully he's a little bit better defensively, but Hedman is still Hedman. This is, you lose Strawman, but not the end of the world. Chernak is not too bad. Shattenkirk, I don't know how they're going to really deploy him. He might be just a power play 2 guy, just a specialty player like that, and then kind of bury him in the 5-on-5 play, but I'm sure they'll figure it out over there. They're pretty smart guys, but I'm most excited after everything is for that third line with the Cirelli and the Josephs. The top 2 lines are going to do their thing. I don't see Kucherov being as good this year as he was last year, but he'll still be Kucherov. But that's the Tampa Bay.
Kind of boring to talk about because I think it's fair to say everyone has the finishing first again. It's just I don't know if they'll have historically as good a season as last year. Last year it was just historically good. They set the point record or they tied it. I don't see that happening again. I think they'll be hungry because of what happened in the playoffs, but I still don't think that. I think that was an anomaly kind of season. Mm-hmm. But to me, the goaltending puts them number 1 because I think you can have a debate. Toronto or Boston to be 1. But that Vasilevsky guy, he's just so good when you watch them. He's stopping everything. He's like an octopus. We've made that analogy before. Yeah. He's just a stud. And then you look at all the firepower they have, their production on the power play. You can't find a comparison. And there's holes on the defense. They think Kevin Shattenkirk's going to help them. We'll see about that. Sergachev, he's still got his blemishes associated with him. They're by no means the perfect team, but to me, the top 2 lines, the point line, the Stamkos line, like you said, with Cirelli kind of having him controlling the bottom 6 along with talented guys like Matthew Joseph. Cedric Paquette, they're just solid, and they're gonna be a playoff team. This team's not missing the playoffs. As much as we want that to happen, it's not gonna happen. I think you can trust in Tampa this year to put another good campaign together. From a fantasy perspective, can't go wrong with any guy who's going to get exposure to that top PP. So that goes without saying. Hedman, Kucherov, Stamkos. Who fills out the rest is kind of yet to be determined. I know Point was a big guy last year, is kind of a bumper position or point guy or right in front of the goalie there on the first PP. So we'll see what happens with him if he signs. And yeah, that's really all I got on Tampa. You think?
Yeah.
Do you think Braden Point is like a perennial 100-point guy?
No, I don't.
So he just had too good of a year last year.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, this is why I'm not gonna be drafting him where he's going, because I think 90.
I was thinking about that. Yeah.
I think 90 is too lofty for that guy. Like, there's no real like skills that seriously jump off the page. I'm just I don't know. I'm not. He's never done all that much to wow me. I mean, I know he's a good player, but I see him more of like an 85 guy.
Yeah. Like if you look at their draft positions, like the jury's out on him and Mitch Marner. But I think Marner, you'd easily draft Marner instead. Like he's just a safer bet,
Yeah, and the winger status helps big time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
who'd you rather have?
I don't know.
Just randomly Scheifele or Point?
Scheifele or Point?
Yeah.
Probably Scheifele. Because he leads his team. He's going to be the anchor on the first line, right? He's going to have exposure to Wheeler. On Tampa, Point's always going to have kind of a backseat to Stamkos. We don't know what his exposure on the top PP is, and we don't know if last year was an anomaly. There's too many questions, I think, to really like Braden Point, especially in comparison to where he's going in the drafts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, shall we?
Okay.
I think we might have to speed up these teams a little bit.
Yeah,
because we're an hour in.
We're an hour in.
And we've done one division.
All right.
Oh boy.
Let's get to it. The 8th seed. This is interesting because honestly, compiling this list from 3 to 8, you could go in a number of different directions.
Now, before you begin here, Nick, I'll be honest with you. I totally did not rank Columbus. I forgot them. They're not even on my list.
The forgotten team.
Yeah, basically. That's so funny. I'm just going to kind of mentally place them somewhere right now, but you go ahead.
Okay. 8th seed. The New York Rangers.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, hey, kudos. You had a great offseason. We talked about Florida earlier. You guys are the other team I got to mention. I mean, kudos for acquiring or for drafting Kaapo Kakko. Great. You got lucky in the lottery. You got the second overall pick, and he looks like to be the most NHL ready player of all the players chosen in that draft. So kudos to you. Kudos for acquiring Jacob Trouba. You finally have a top 4 steady puck moving defenseman who you can slot in there. Kudos for acquiring the Adam Fox character. He will help you on the power play. He's going to be a guy who can actually do something, unlike Kevin Shattenkirk last year, who was more of an anchor for guys. So you made great additions, but you still have a lot of work to do. I look at your lines, your second, your third, and your fourth centerman. You have no center depth. Yes, you have Zibanejad and Panarin on the top line, which should be amazing. Panarin was that great acquisition. You got the best free agent, but the rest of your team still has work to do. Your Philip Cheadle is your 2 center. Your Ryan Strome is your 3 center. I'm still not sold on those guys. It looks like a team that's still content on tanking. We know about that letter they issued to the fans, so I could see them tanking for another year and reloading one more time through the draft, and then next year maybe coming strong. But to me, this team just seems content as a bottom feeder, and I could see them at the bottom of the standings this year.
That's harsh. That's harsh stuff. Okay, so my bottom team here in the Metro here is the Columbus Blue Jackets, the aforementioned Columbus Blue Jackets. They took heavy losses, Nick. Probably easily the heaviest losses of any team. They lost their superstar player forward. They lost their superstar goalie. They got crushed over. They just got crumpled. I still like their defense. I think their forwards are. I like some pieces there. Like, I love Dubois. I love Atkinson. I love Josh Anderson. I just think that. It's a lot to saddle Dubois and Atkinson with this offensive burden. Now that Panarin's gone, they're going to have to do a lot of that heavy lifting. I don't know if that young kid is ready for it yet. Not quite yet, at least. And I know they got a goalie coming in from overseas. I don't know his name, and I've heard he's a pretty good player, but like you're getting a fresh new face in there to go along with God knows who else. That's just the biggest question mark there for me, and I think their defense can be just very solid. But I mean, we saw it last year. They were already kind of inconsistent up and down. They barely made the playoffs with all the stars they had. I know they had a pretty solid run once they got there, but I think it's a little bit too much to saddle Dubois with this offensive burden. The goalies is just too much of a question mark. And like I said, I have a lot of these Metro guys, Metro teams just really bolstering up. So this is the team that lost out the most, and unfortunately, they're at the bottom of my rank.
Yeah, fair enough. That's yeah. I mean, I don't have them too much higher, but I see all your points. They only lost stuff in the off season, so won't debate you there. Seventh seed for me, the New York Islanders.
Whoa.
I see this team taking a step back, and mainly the reason I say goaltending perspective. From what I heard, the reason they did so well last year was because their goalies played out of their mind. And if there's one part of a game that's the least sustainable, forwards, defense, goaltending, it's goaltending. It's the hardest thing to sustain. If a goalie plays out of his mind, it's unlikely he's going to do it again. And not to mention, the goalie who was your goalie last year is out. You essentially, your best player, you replaced him and signed some other guy to a 4-year contract extension. It was the weirdest shakeup from a goalie position we've ever seen, where this guy who found rejuvenated his career, both physically and mentally, was basically ousted from a market where it looked like he called home. And now you awkwardly bring in this Varlamov guy, who I know we've been bullish on in the past, and we've tooted his horn quite a bit, but I just don't know what to expect here, and I don't want to. I want to stay away from this guy fantasy wise, because I don't know how they're going to distribute the stars between Grice and him, and I don't know how the Trot system will work with him. I just don't know if this team can do what they did last year. I think it's unsustainable, and that's why I have them as my second worst team.
I also
mean, like,
have
I just look at their lineup and I'm like, the defense, like they aren't name brand guys, and
No.
up front they weren't able to get any big free agents. They kind of just kept with the status quo.
Yeah, but they surprised us so much last year with their system. I also have them in that spot. They're quite solid all around in the forward position. I don't mind them there. I think Barzal will have a fantastic year. I think he's going to take a big step. Do not hesitate fantasy-wise on this player. He's going very late. He's going right around the Larkins of the world. So don't hesitate with this guy. I've seen his off-season training this year. The guy's looking sharp. The guy's looking slick. He could be one of the more skilled guys in the league. The goaltending, I don't think it's going to be as good. Like you said, I think that's going to be the main regression point. Although, that being said, I think there's going to be a lot of close games, Nick. And I think whether those go their way or they don't go their way, that will be kind of the decision point on this team. I think, obviously, Barry Trotz is still there. And Noah Dobson has looked really, really fantastic in their training camp and in preseason. So you might see him roving the blue line. He's a very smart player, 2-time Memorial Cup champion, 2 years in a row. And yeah, he's had a fantastic camp. So not a whole lot, necessarily improving with this team. So when everyone else gets better and these guys kind of stay, treading water, I think that they're just due to fall a little bit. But that's not saying their future is not bright. I think there's a decent future coming up. It's just not at the moment.
So we agree on the 7th seed.
Yes, we do.
Okay. That'll be interesting to see where you have the Rangers. But moving on, number 6, The Columbus Blue Jackets.
Oh,
That's where I have them. The reason I'm a little more bullish on them is because I can't see, and you know me, I read more into coaching than you do. I can't see a John Tortorella coach team like as a bottom five team lottery team. I just can't. The guy wills so much out of his team. We saw the pregame speech, the emotional speech delivered before the game one against Tampa. I think that was a big reason they won the series. They swept the best team in the history of the NHL. I mean, if you go from
wow.
sweeping the best team in the history of the NHL to finishing the last in the Metro, I'm going to blow up.
It
How
happens.
how do you do that? I mean, to me, they can't be that bad. They still have talent. They still have those two cornerstone defensemen, Wierenski and Jones, on the D. The D hasn't changed at all. Guys like Savard and Murray are still there. This team is still solid defensively. They're still going to be in games. They're going to have close games. Up front, you still have very talented guys like Josh Anderson who could score 30 goals in his sleep.
Love that
You
guy.
you still have the Pierre-Luc Dubois, one of
Love
your
that
favorite
guy.
players. Exactly. You still have Cam Atkinson, who is very big for you in fantasy.
Love that
So,
guy.
yeah, so this team's not all that bad. I mean, I know the rest leaves much to be desired, but to me, it's the goaltending which keeps this team back. The reason I can't see them being a bubble team in the playoffs like they were last year is because I think this GM just straight up forgot to address the goaltending position. I think he woke up. He woke up on July 2nd and realized, shit, all the goalies have signed and I wasn't watching them.
Yarmo?
Yeah. I think how can you go into a season with these guys as your
No.
goalies?
There's no way.
Elvis Merzlikins?
That's the guy. Yes, Merzlikins, whatever the
Are you
frig his name
kidding
is.
me?
From the MHL
You're
or
really-
something.
John Tortorella is really going to trust Jonas Korpisalo and Elvis Merzlikins to play 82 games?
Elvis? Wow.
Yeah, Elvis. I'm shocked. And I don't know how this is the most fascinating tandem in the whole NHL. The D in front of them should make their job fairly easy, but it's not going to be a cakewalk, and you're going to need a guy there to stop pucks for 55 games. And I don't know if either one of these guys can do it. So that's why I have them on the bottom of my Metro standings. I don't think they'll be that bad because of the talent I mentioned from the top. But I just can't see this team competing for a playoff spot if you're not going to address the goaltending position.
So we're at 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's
Is
my
this where you
Rangers.
go Rangers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's my Rangers. I think that middle-ish group of Metro, they're actually going to be pretty tightly clustered, and I don't think they're going to be all that far from the wild card. Like, I don't think things are going to be too separated in the standings here. I think they're going to be they've done a lot in the offseason. They added Kako. They're going to add Kravtsov too. He's another Russian player, really fantastic. Adam Fox. There's rumblings that he could take over a top power play spot as soon as this year. This guy is born for this position. Obviously, Panarin on that top line. Trouba is fantastic in the top 4 there. The lack of center depth is going to be the Achilles heel. That'll be the thing that they the sword that they fall on at the end of the day. That's going to be but I think at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to Henrik Lundqvist. What kind of Henrik Lundqvist are we going to get? Are we going to get the King Henrik of old, who's a very solid player and he's one of the best goalies of our generation, or are we going to get the old man that we've had the last couple of years? If this guy can somehow find a way to get sparked by all this youth movement and all that kind of stuff, he's one good season away from vaulting a young team like this right into the postseason. So I don't want to count them out of anything like that yet. They've got a lot of young guys. If something goes their way, maybe they can make a trade for a decent centerpiece, just like Winnipeg did with the Hayes thing. But who knows? Just a team to keep our eye on. And I think Henrik will kind of sway the pendulum one way or the other.
Fair enough. I mean, I think the only thing you missed was the Georgiev.
Oh, Yeah.
right? I mean, he proved to be a star last year, so I think he's a guy who could fill in admirably, even if Henrik can't carry the load.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. If it's gonna be him, then I don't think they're gonna be sniffing around the wild card spots.
Hmm.
Then
Fair
they'd
enough.
be more like where you put them.
Yeah. Panarin. I mean, what 90 points? What are you calling here?
Yeah. Um. Uh. 85 to 90.
And Capo Caco,
He's gonna get around 60 points. Very
60 points.
amazing rookie year.
More or less than Jack Hughes?
More.
More. Okay.
Way
Duly
more.
noted. Duly
Way more.
noted. And hey, and pick up that Mika Zibanejad guy in your drafts.
No.
You know, he's not going too high. So if you want, you know, a guy who's going to cover shots, he's going to cover power play points, he's going to score 30 goals, he's going to play with Panarin all year. Pick up old Mika. I don't think you'll regret it.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
So our bottom three's basically, I mean, it's the same three teams, albeit kind of mishmashed. Now things get maybe a little interesting.
I think they do. Yeah.
The fifth seed in the Metro Division
I think we're going to
will be-
agree here.
will be the New Jersey Devils.
Yes.
Hey, again, another great offseason. I think a big reason why this Metro Division, there's no weak link, is because the two best prospects in the draft went to two teams in this division. Like
Yeah.
immediately, every team in this division is interesting. Like they're fun to watch all of a
Yeah.
sudden. Like
Yeah.
New Jersey, you used to see Leafs in New Jersey and you'd be like, oh, I don't want to watch this. Or it'd be Leafs and Rangers and you'd be like, oh, I don't want to watch this.
Correct.
But now with these guys on their team, they're fascinating. I mean, New Jersey, they added PK Subban. They drafted Jack Hughes. They look a little more, you know, built up this year. You're going to have a grade A defenseman on your top pairing who can carry a power play. That'll, you know, push guys like a Butcher and a Vatanen who are very solid defensemen, solid offensive defensemen back to PK or to the power play 2 unit. So it distributes everyone. It makes everyone look a little better. It puts them in the right spots. Wayne Simmons will play the role as a mentor to the young Jack Hughes. He should be admirable in that respect. They look to be on the same line. Hughes along with Nikita Gusev, who is another acquisition they got from
Yes.
Vegas.
Good player.
He's a highly touted player from the KHL. So the names just keep coming here as far as the acquisitions they made. And I think it's really going to pay off, and they're going to do a lot better than last year. Not to mention, I think, you know, guys like Corey Schneider can't be any worse than last year. Mackenzie Blackwood is a guy I'm bullish on. I think he's got a
No.
great pedigree. I think he's a super talented goalie.
Come on.
But honestly, that's probably the only thing I have hanging in the back here. That's why I have them as my fifth seed, is because I don't know if the goaltending is stable enough to keep them into the playoff race. But you know the top line's going to produce. You know he sure should have a solid year, a solid 60-point year playing alongside Hall if he's healthy. Paul Mary, I will draft him yet again. He's my annual guy I have to draft, as we've joked about on the show before. He's going to get me the shots. He's going to get me the power play points. There's a lot of fantasy things to like on New Jersey, which is something I don't think you could say in the past.
Yeah.
And I think this team is going to be exciting again to watch, which is good. And and they will push for a playoff spot. At the end of the season, I guarantee you, New Jersey will be fighting for a spot. I don't think they'll make it, but they're going to be fighting.
I don't disagree with that. I've got them in the same spot there. I want to take the time to say screw Jack Hughes. Hate that guy. Don't like him at all. I've got here that they're going to be sniffing around the playoffs. Obviously, we mentioned all the guys they added. I think Gusev is going to be a sneaky good player, especially if, I mean, it looks like him and Hughes are already finding some chemistry up on their line, on the second line there. So that's really nice. What we have to keep an eye on is, can Jack Hughes, with his small stature, his small frame, handle the rigors of a center position in the National Hockey League? It's going to be tough. It was tough on guys like Kotkaniemi last year, who really broke down later in the season due to his small little body. And Kotkaniemi's a bit bigger than Jack as well, but Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's had a great preseason. Let's be honest. Scoring some pretty goals there, and I think the goaltending is going to be the Achilles heel. But other than that, well, if they can keep it together, like you said, a dynamic, a fun team, they're gonna be very fun to watch, exciting, electric. Subban to Hughes to the back of the net. Like there's so much to like there as a New Jersey fan. I'm not gonna like it personally, but I can see why people are getting all antsy about the season to get going over there.
Yeah, again, like they're an exciting team again, which is good to see from New Jersey. I can look to watching a Devils game for once.
1 year ago, I did not give a flying fuck about this team.
4 years ago, 3 years ago, didn't care.
Yeah, they've been
now
they've been
they're
like nothing
they're
for
relevant
so long.
again.
Yeah, in 1 year, everything changes.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Even when they drafted Heischer, like, oh, that's kind of a lame first overall. Next, like, no one really cared. So, yeah, good for them.
Alrighty. The 4th seed, and this is where I started pulling my hair out because I didn't know what to do here.
This is hard.
Things get very interesting here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really wanted to leave Pittsburgh out of the playoff picture.
You can't. You simply can't.
I looked at the rosters
I
and
know.
I'm like, this team looks worse than
I
the
know.
other teams in this division.
I know.
And,
but you
and
can't
I was like,
do it.
I can't do it because
You
I
know.
can't disrespect those Hall of Famers.
No. You
Right?
can't.
If Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang are helming your hockey team, you will make the playoffs. like Sid doesn't miss the playoffs. He just doesn't.
No.
And I read an incredible stat the other day. You know how Sid was always an injury troubled guy?
Sorta, yeah.
He in the last 6 years, he's only missed something like 14 games.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts after all the concussion issues? Like, he's now finally back to being that healthy star.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's great to hear. So with that being said, I got them. I wanted to put them here, but I couldn't. So they're in the top 3. And with my 4th seed, I'm giving it off to the Philadelphia Flyers.
Oh. Wow. Okay.
I really like this team on paper. I was really excited.
You love this team.
They got Vigneault is their coach, and I was going to be like, oh yeah, that guy. Like, whenever he goes into a new market, he always turns them around. Like, he always does something. He clicks the right buttons. But to me, I mean, I still think the rookie goaltender is a question. This will be his first full season in the NHL. He's going to be tasked with being the starting goaltender in arguably the toughest market in the NHL, which is saying a lot. We know those Philly fans; they will turn on you in an instant. And this Philly team, they're going to have to watch his back because we don't want young Carter Hart being run out of town. No. So he will be the starting goalie. He will be playing behind a improved defense. I like the Justin Braun move. I was really high on that move when they made it earlier in the summer. Matt Niskanen, they bring him over from Washington. I still don't know what he has left in the tank. I know he's gotten older now, how much he really contributes to that team. They lost Radko Gudas, so I don't know if they really gain that much on the defensive end because I really liked old Radko on that team. And then up front, I mean, I think those are the biggest additions, right? I mean, you sign Kevin Hayes. He gets his big money. Somebody was going to sign him, and it just happened to be Philly. I think it's a good fit because now guys like Nolan Patrick can safely go to the third line, and you're not asking too much of them. So Hayes is your second center. He'll be, probably centering a JVR and a Voracek, splitting up Voracek and Giroux and Couturier, and then, Giroux and Couturier, they'll be on your top line. So the depth's there up front. That's without question. And I don't think that's ever been a problem with Philly. They've always had that elite depth up front. I'm not too high on the defense. Like, I still don't think Provorov is this number 1D. I don't think we can anoint him yet. I know Sanheim really did a lot last year. Like, it was one of their better defensemen, but to me, there's still some glaring holes on the back end. And I don't know if the goalie can carry the load. So I had them 4th in my Metro.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm going to get to them a little later on. So I'm going to give you my 4th team right now, and it's the Carolina Hurricanes. Tough. It's tough to put them here, isn't it? After
The
they go
East
to the East
finalist,
Finals. Yeah,
Carolina Hurricane.
exactly. Crazy run last year. I'm sure that experience will help them. Their defense remains pretty amazing. Notably, they add Gardner, and they still have tons of great. Like, this team has got loaded the cupboards full of defensive prospects. Hayden Fleury is one of those guys. Jake Bean is one of those guys. They're also adding a youngster up front in Martin Nikas. Nikas. He's been a highly touted guy for a long time. Their forwards are solid. Top line is great with Aho, Nino now, and Tuevo. Then you've got guys like Stahl. This Andrei Svechnikov. You better watch yourself with this player. I think this guy is going to be a 30-goal scorer as soon as this year. This guy is so good. He's unbelievably good, and I think he's been working hard over the offseason from my reports, my insider reports. So watch out for him on the second line. He could take off. Don't draft him necessarily, but have him in your back pocket. Unless you're in like a 12-man league, that's a keeper league. Then, of course, yeah, draft him for sure. Dzingel, they got there. Howla, wow, this team is deep. But again, I like the other teams better. I just do. I don't like their goaltending. Carolina's goaltending scares me a little bit. Sure, they've got great defense, but I don't trust those guys in the net. For that reason, they are my in a very solid top 4 Metro. They're my 4th.
All right.
Or is this 5?
This is 4.
Okay, yeah. Oh, they're
This
my
is 4.
Yeah.
I will not get into them just yet,
Okay, good.
but I will get into the Pittsburgh Penguins,
That's your
who I
next
rank
team?
third. So I do have them creeping in,
Okay.
locking up that third spot in the Metro, and I'm not going to get into this. I'm not going to talk about this very much.
No.
I think I made my case.
Doesn't need to.
I don't like this team on paper, but they have those Hall of Fame players, and you immediately need to give them respect. When's the last time this team didn't make the playoffs? They always make the playoffs. They always do.
06. I think.
06.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so 13 straight years in the playoffs. It's not they're not going to miss. They're going to make it 14 in a row, and they're going to be in the playoffs. So that's all I'm saying. What I will say is I think there's holes on the back end. I really don't like their second and third pairings. I think they're atrocious. And you know, they're just on paper they look mediocre, but they're gonna find a way. So that's all I'm gonna say.
It's such a hard team to like. If you're not like a Crosby fan or a Malkin fan, it's such a hard team to cheer for because there's not a lot of like hope. There's not a lot of youth. There's not a lot of excitement going on there.
No.
I mean, I don't think age is right now at the doorstep of Sid and Gino. I think Crosby had the 100-point season last year. Gino had a rough year, but I think he's poised for a bounce back. I don't think age is going to be their demise just yet. I think the window is still a crack open. And for that reason, I think General Manager Jim Rutherford is going to do anything he can to fill the holes you're talking about. I think at the trade deadline, they don't have many assets left. They had a couple good first round or early picks in Nathan Legare and Sam Poulin. So those guys are maybe trade pieces, but like they don't have much left in terms of the cupboard. They're basically throwing all the fuel onto the fire and trying to go for it. So this could be the one of the last 2 years that they try this. So of course they're gonna be in the running. They're gonna be in the mix. They're gonna be in the playoffs. They're my number 3. But yeah, that defense is nasty. So hopefully they fix that. My God. Let's move on.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're honest because I think the playoffs was a big eye opener for you last year.
Yes.
You know, you've always been bullish on this team almost too much. Kind of watching them with rose-colored glasses, as Pierre would say. But but I think you finally showed some honesty, and you were pretty candid with your comments when they got swept, and you said, this era, this legendary era may be coming to an end soon.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying here only backs that up.
I'm not ready to fully confirm that yet.
No, but you can see, like you just said it yourself, right? A year or two is all they have left, really.
Yeah, literally all the fuel is going onto the fire, and hopefully it gets.
Here's
hot
my
enough.
fantasy-related question, though.
Yeah.
I gotta ask one question about this team. Sidney Crosby, how many years of elite production does he have left?
I knew this was coming.
He's 32.
Because it's
32.
It's a great question. It's a fantastic question. I think there are players out there who, over the course of their careers, have done such a good job at taking care of their bodies. In dieting and off-season training. I think he's one of those guys, and yeah, he's getting a little slower, but I think his brain for the game and overall skill set and strength will still be there. I think he can remain, put it this way, he's going to be a 90-plus point guy this year, 100%.
No
I
shit.
think
Yeah,
in the
course.
next, until he's 35, he's going to be 85 plus. I think that's very safe. Until he's
Next 3 years,
35.
85 plus.
Yeah, and then we can revisit the topic. But I think
Okay.
he's he's in good shape. Sure, things will slow down a little bit, like he said himself. All the work he's doing now is just to slow that process. But this player is just so smart. He's got Jake Gensel now, good wingman. I think that's a good recipe for pretty good success.
Yeah, well, I had to ask because I'm sure we'll get into it more next episode. But Kyle and I have our fantasy draft keeper league coming up in a couple of days,
Yeah.
and hey, I'm picking 6th, and I think I got an outside shot at getting Sid the Kid, and I just want to know in a keeper league how much value this guy has. So we'll see.
Isn't there
We'll
that,
see if I.
Isn't there that hint of I don't want to draft a 32-year-old in that spot? Don't you kind of feel
but
that
I
in the
also
back?
want to win this year and next year.
Yeah.
Like you want to win the seasons where the league is the most relevant, right? So at least in the most immediate future. So guys like Ovi and Crosby still have elite value to me. And that's why I'm curious about Crosby. Do I take him as my first overall pick?
The answer is no. Don't take him.
Because you want him.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe we work out a trade if I take him, because I know you definitely like him more than I do.
Yeah. We'll
Moving
figure
on,
something out.
number 2 seed. You probably know where I'm going here. Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah.
I didn't have them as my 4 like you did. I had 2. And I'm bullish on the team in general. I love their defense. I think it's arguably the best defense in the entire Eastern Conference.
I think it is.
I think the world now knows who a Jacob Slavin is. I don't need to get into that. They know who a Brett Pesce is. I don't need to get into that. They signed Jake Gardner in an amazing signing, a great value deal. He's only getting paid something like $5 million a year. He got no bonus. He's getting paid the same he got in Toronto to play in a more lousy, slow market where he's going to get to not get picked on. And so he's happy. The team's happy. Guys like Dougie Hamilton are there. They're still going to be quarterbacking the top PP. I mean, it's a great defense. And if there's one thing I value the most on a team, it's your defense. And up front, Sebastian Aho is a star. Everybody knows him now. It's not a secret. Nito Niederreiter fit like a glove on this team when they acquired him from Minnesota last year. I could see him putting together 60 to 65 points this year easily. I don't even think that's an ambitious prediction. I really don't. In fantasy leagues, please draft that man. Svechnikov, you mentioned it, 30 goals. It's within reach.
Yeah. It is.
Eric Holla, a guy who scored 30 goals just 2 years ago with Vegas. He's going to be your third center, so you've insulated a bit. Skater-wise, this team is elite in my mind. Where questions start to come in is the goaltending, as you said, and you're not going to have Curtis McElhinney this year. You're going to have James Reimer, who I consider to be a lower end of the spectrum NHL goalie, who didn't do much for Florida last year. So I'm concerned about their goaltending. That's why I don't have as my number 1 lead. but I still think everything else is so good that it keeps them in the running and should get them into the playoffs.
So we're at number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah. Washington Capitals. You know what this means, don't you?
Wow.
Yes.
Somebody's high on a team from Pennsylvania and not the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Wow. Okay. I'm really not going to talk about Washington. I'm going to say, yeah, I only put them in here as a courtesy. Like if it were up to me and I was just looking at the roster, I'd sweep them in like out of the playoffs. But I can't do that, because of the rules. I think Kuznetsov is a dirty, dirty man. I predict he's going to have a rough year because of all this. Every time he has a bad game, everyone's going to be chatting, "Oh, I fucking snorted cocaine," like stupid shit like that. So he's going to have a rough one. I just yawn at these lines. They're kind of tired. They're kind of old. Like I'm just not seeing a lot of excitement. It's kind of like Pittsburgh. Like I'm not very excited by what I see here. And Holtby, Holtby's not even good anymore. Like I don't know who this guy is. Phoenix Copley, we might see a little bit of him. And Ovechkin's just Like I don't know. They're just kind of good every year, and I think I have them at number 2, and it's a boring place to put them. And I'm not going to say anything else on this team. I just don't like them at all.
Yeah, they're not sexy to talk about, but you just know their success is sustainable because they do it every year, right?
Yeah. I'd love to put Carolina ahead of them. I'm way more interested in Carolina than Washington. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
They're my number 1 seed, and so I assume because of that I'll have to get into
that's lame. By
why.
The way.
Yeah, it's lame. It's a lame pick, but it's
lame.
probably the smart pick.
No,
because I pick it every year, and they always come first. I think they've come first something like 3 years in a row now.
It sucks though. You gotta shuffle it up here.
The Crosby argument stays true with Ovechkin. An Alex Ovechkin team does not miss the playoffs. They don't. And the same rule applies here. Kuznetsov, you can say what you want about his character, but he's only going to miss 3 games. It's a light suspension. He'll still be there, saddled along with Ovi. You're still going to have your second line of Backstrom and Oshie. It sounds boring as fuck, but that's the reality of this team. Lars Eller is your third center. Your defense, John Carlson will be an elite power play defenseman. Like it's so boring. Nothing changes.
Lame.
It's so lame. They're arguably the lamest team in the league because they're just so goddamn stale every year. But
yeah,
they're effective. Kempny and Jensen, they're ugly names, but they still find a way to play well. Orlov, same thing applies to him. And the goaltender, Holtby, he's not a sexy goalie. Not anymore. If anybody tells you their favorite goalie is Braden Holtby, they're lying. Because he's just a boring guy. Okay, on and off the ice. So he's gonna play his 60 games. He's gonna put up his 250 goals against and his 918 save percentage, and he's gonna get his team into the playoffs. And that's this team. They're gonna be sustainable. They're just gonna play their games. They're gonna go out there and put together good games, and they're gonna make the playoffs. And I have them as my first seed.
Wow. Yeah, that's lame, Nick. It's
lame.
Nothing. It sucks.
But I want to be right.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's your prerogative.
Yeah, I do.
My number 1 team is the Philadelphia Flyers. That's not lame. That's cool.
Wow. That's not lame. It's cool, but you might eat shit.
No. I know. Remember how highly we spoke of them last year? Oh, this roster's so fucking
And they let me down.
Yeah, big time. But we've been waiting for this for a while. This has been percolating. This team has been percolating.
Percolating.
And I think percolating
Peter
in the
McGuire
minors.
word. Percolating.
Exactly. And I think they're just ready to blow. Listen, they've got the star power. They've got Giroux, Voracek, Couturier. They've got one of the best two-way centermen in the league, probably top 3 in Couturier. He could be like a Bergeron light, and we know how good that formula works over there. They've got depth. They've got Konechny. They've got Hayes now. They've got JVR, that former 30-goal scorer. Nolan Patrick can do his own shit on the third line. Like, go play with your toys over there. Sucks that he's injured. I'm really pissed about that. Like, oh, I was really rattled to see that. I was hoping maybe come in, show some good stuff, but nope. So let's tuck that away, tuck that aside. Um, Provorov, I think he had a really rough year last year. Consider that Provorov sort of sophomore slump, so to speak. You know, he had the great year before that, learning year last year. I think he's going to come back to this year with a ton more knowledge, worked on a bunch of different things in the offseason. I think he's going to be good to go. Solid overall as your kind of one defenseman there. And then, of course, you've got Ghost tucked away as a power play QB on line 1 or 2. Doesn't matter. Probably the power play 1. But you've got guys like Haig in there, Travis Sanheim. Like the defense, I know that was your main sticking point. I think they have the talent to actually be a good defense core. It's just how the coaching staff kind of structures them. I think that's what they were lacking most last year was just getting guys in the right spot, structure, positioning, that kind of thing. I think the talent's there though.
And then, that's Vigneault. That's Vigneault's calling card, right?
There you go.
Defensive structure.
There you go. Yeah. So I'm sure. Right, I'm sure with throughout training camp, he's been drilling that in. And you know what? If I can say one thing about Carter Hart is that I was impressed beyond belief with how he played at such a young age last year. I want this guy to be an above-average goaltender, and I think this team has the capability and the skill to be up there in the top 1, 2, or 3 in the Metro here. And not to mention, they've got a youth boost, if they should choose to use it, Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. Who
they're going to make the team?
I think it's one of those things like I said with Montreal with their guys. I think you're gonna have them in the AHL. That's great. And then one guy struggles, one guy goes down with injury, like a Nolan Patrick, for example. Boom, a spot has just opened up for a very, very solid, very skilled guy who is gonna just ignite, a lot of energy into this lineup. Frost is a multi-100-point guy that we got to see at the World Juniors. Is a very talented kid. There's a lot to like with this team. We've always loved their lineup. I think maybe this coach is the guy to really just pull it all together. But I think the pieces are all in place. It's just do the right thing. I mean, I don't have any problem putting them ahead of Washington or Pittsburgh for that matter. So let's see what happens here. But I think they're fun at number 1.
Well, I admire the take, and hey, I had them 2 down on them. I just not that high. But moving on to the wildcard teams. My 2 wildcard teams. I'll be very quick about this. Number 1, I got Florida. We both seem to be bullish on this team. I almost had them as a 3 team in the Atlantic, but I just couldn't see the Leafs falling out of that spot. I like I said, we've talked about them enough. I like the additions they made, and I think it's good enough, along with their coach, to be a playoff team. And then the second wild card, it's fascinating. It comes down to my 5th seed in the Atlantic, my Montreal Canadiens, and the 4th seed in the Metro, the Philadelphia Flyers. Philly, Montreal, baby.
Wow.
Who do I got?
Montreal.
To me, it's goaltending. Carter Hart or Carey Price. This is where the veteran will win out. Carey Price will will this team to a playoff spot. Last year was so disappointing with how close they got. Their season ended tragically in an overtime loss in Carolina. I think they're really going to make up for that. I can see Claude Julien pushing the right buttons, fixing that power play, getting their act together. Montreal will be a playoff team this year.
Yes. Don't you dare get me going like this. Wow. Could you imagine? Oh my. Okay, so real quickly.
Hey, Montreal, Tampa. We're going to get it.
Oh my.
First round.
God, I am going to go nuts for that shit. Okay, are you going to be home at that time?
April, yeah, I should be home for the end of the series.
Okay. We might be going to Montreal.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see we'll meet in Montreal then.
Jojo's gonna have the John Cooper doll he's gonna beat up.
Oh,
is that right?
yes. The revenge series is what we're gonna call it. So quite comfortably,
who you got?
Florida Panthers, my number 1 wild card team.
Okay.
they're not going to have too much trouble. I think they're going to be sniffing Boston, Boston for a bit of that. So they're going to be comfortably in the wild card one. Number 2 will come down to Montreal and Carolina for me.
Nice.
So that's going to be a battle again. So, and again, it's funny, like you said. I mean, it's fun to compare the teams up front. I think to me, the up front Carolina has the slight edge, but I'm going to go back to goaltending with the one Achilles heel of Carolina. I don't think with the energy of Montreal's game, maybe they don't have the same amount of skill and depth defensively, but I think the energy that they bring and then the calming veteran Vezina presence of Carey Price, they're going to win out that spot. They're going to win out 9 times out of 10. And then, as we know, anything can happen from then on in. And I think at that time, you're going to see Montreal with some of their young guys really stepping up into roles later on in the season. So I'm excited. I think this could be a push year for them. And I think based on what Carey Price said in that interview about where his career's at, that could be a telltale sign that he's locked and loaded. And it kind of pushes the buttons of upper management like it's go time. They've got Caulfield waiting in the wings for next year. They've got Suzuki. They've got Paling. You don't need any more young guys. It's time to start pushing the buttons now. So I'm fired up. I think this team's in for a couple good years in front of us. And boy, oh boy, I can't wait to dust that jersey off.
Ha ha. What a take. Yeah. I think with Weber and Price aging, you got to start making moves, right?
Yeah.
Management has to make the moves to help this team. You got to start thinking about the here and now, not just the future. And hopefully we see Montreal and the Leafs in the playoffs. I think that would be very exciting.
Oh my God. Boy.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah, it's been a while for Montreal.
Yeah, that it has. So with that said, there you have it. Kyle has the Philly Flyers making the playoffs. I have the Carolina Hurricanes making the playoffs, and everything else is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So not too much to disagree on here. Hopefully a little more hot takes and disagreement in next episode, where we'll be previewing the Pacific and Central divisions, which I'm sure will be a lot tougher based on what the pundits are saying. So we look forward to that episode. We also look forward to announcing a few other things that I'm working on at the moment. So hopefully that all works out. And until next time, it's been a pleasure to serve you. Thank you for listening to our first episode of Season 2 here on Rink Moose. We appreciate all the support. And until next time, Rink Moose is signing off.